The state of Connecticut wants to pass a law that says that landlords cannot end the tenant's lease at the end of the lease term unless they have a good cause. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of Connecticut, and it has to do with what they call good cause eviction protections for tenants. Basically, what it's saying is that landlords, after creating a lease with a tenant that says, hey, for example, you have 1 year lease, you have 12 months here to live in your house, in my house. Well, guess what? I can't just end our lease agreement after those 12 months. I have to provide a good cause in order to terminate that landlord-tenant relationship, okay? You have to, according to this stupid law. Now, the law is dumb because when you create a lease, it's always going to be for a limited term. Not always. I guess there are some people who create tenancies that are just, basically infinite, but a lot of landlords, myself included, we have a limited term to our leases, and it is complete garbage that they're telling us that, oh, well, that limited term doesn't mean anything, or that I have to take a tenant to eviction court and prove that I am removing them from the house for an appropriate reason. What a bunch of garbage. Like they want to make things more difficult for landlords, and this law would do just that because taking a tenant to court in order to get rid of them rather than just telling them, hey, we're not going to be renewing your lease, that is a lot more expensive, a lot more costly, and a lot less likely to go favorably for the landlord. There are reasons that a landlord would not want to renew the lease that maybe don't qualify for all of their reasons, all of their protections. They're like, well, you can only terminate a tenant's lease for A, B, and C reason, and you have D, E, and F. So yeah, bad news. I've talked about these sort of laws being passed all over the country before, including in places like New York and California. And so, you see that they just don't work. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below, and let me know what you think. So here's a question for those people who have heard about good cause eviction protections, right? One of the arguments has always been that these protections will actually help lower the cost of housing and help keep people housed within these cities. Yet, if you look at the places that have implemented these laws, it hasn't done either of those things. Okay, it has not lowered the cost of housing. These places are usually the most expensive places in the entire country. And it certainly hasn't helped keep people housed, as we have record numbers of homeless people running around. And you know what? I'm just curious. Do you believe that these laws, what the effect of them that they claim is actually the effect? Or do you believe, like I do, that instead of protecting tenants, it actually hurts them because now landlords are looking for even more reasons to reject their tenancy in the first place? Anyway, let me get into this article. I'm going to tell you what they're trying to do up in Connecticut. This article is coming from ctinsider.com, and it says, should a landlord be allowed to evict you for no reason? Connecticut lawmakers debate just cause bill. Yeah, let's get into it. Jose Benitez, a single father of two, had lived in his New Britain apartment for 7 years when new owners bought the complex and raised rents by hundreds of dollars. When tenants complained to the city's Fair Rent Commission, Benitez testified to a state legislators Tuesday they were evicted in retaliation. It's unfair for these tenants that it went that way, the way it did, Benitez said. Minutes later, Connecticut Tenants Union President Hannah Schrager cited Benitez's experience as an example of why Connecticut needs greater protections for tenants. Specifically, she urged the legislature's Housing Committee to advance a bill that would bar most landlords from removing tenants at the end of their leases without just cause for doing so. So I want to get into the details, a little bit on this guy's story, this Benitez, right? And how he says that, oh, well, you know what? A new owner came in, purchased the apartment complex where he was living, and then rose the rent. So all of this sounds so unfair. Oh, this is unfair, So as I've mentioned before, I'm a landlord, so I understand how these things work. When a new property owner purchases a property, they have a higher cost basis than the previous landlord. Okay, no one buys a property, especially a multi-million-dollar apartment complex, unless they want to make money. They're not buying it at the at the price, and they're just, oh, we're just going to keep everything the same. Everything is going to just be perfect for the tenants living in there. No, they purchase the property with the intention of increasing the rents. Why do they do that? Because a lot of the times we are buying these properties and they are distressed. They are already being under rented. So let's say that the rents, the market rate rents inside this apartment complex are $1,000 a month. You might be buying an apartment complex where the rents are $400, $500, $600 a month, and the previous owner might have been making money because they own the property outright, or they might not have been making money. The units could have been mostly empty inside the place, or there could have been a great number of units empty. So what the new property owner does is they purchase the property with the intention of raising the rents in order to make money, and the loan that they are getting is actually contingent upon them raising these rents. Their whole business plan, because these are businesses, is to go in there, bring the rents up to market rate, and then the property itself will be worth more money. So why would a person purchase a property if they did not intend to make money? Why would a bank give a loan to a person to purchase a property unless the person intended on making the property profitable? Okay, there are so many layers to it, and the tenants, they only see their side. They see their side as, oh, well, it's just not fair. Like, I've been paying this same amount for X number of years, and you know what? They haven't made any improvements. They're like, well, you've been paying substantially below the market rate rents. Substantially below. Not only that, but if the landlord continues to charge that amount, they will lose money. The bank will call the loan due because the apartment complex is not profitable. The place will fall into disrepair. Okay, all of these things will happen at the same time. It is the landlord's responsibility, absolute responsibility, to go in there and raise rents. And if you can't pay it, you need to move on to somewhere where you can pay the rent. So you're fighting back. This tenant and their group of tenants are fighting back because this landlord came in and followed a basic business plan that requires them to raise the rents up to market rates so that they can turn a profit. And yeah, they're mad because yes, their rents went up. But if your rents go up somewhere and you can't afford it, you need to go somewhere where you can't afford. You don't sit there and try to force the landlord to give you cheap rent. That's stupid. So you do all that, and here you might have been paying your super cheap rent on time every month for however long, right? But your lease is over. Rather than taking you to eviction court, because that is costly for the landlord says, you know what? If you're not willing to pay these new higher rents, we're just going to end this tenancy right here. And that's exactly what happened to you. Now you're saying, well, that's not right. It's not right that I had to leave my super cheap rent building and I don't get to have cheap rent forever. This is a selfish and idiotic argument, okay? And the fact that there are any politicians or anyone who is even pushing this argument tells me that they don't have any common sense, they don't have any business knowledge, and that they are just lacking in brains overall. Okay, because it's obvious that if you have a contract with somebody that is only for a year long, a year-long contract, a lease, well, at the end of the year, you are under zero obligation to continue that lease, and you should be under zero obligation. And you know what? If you remove these sort of laws and you make it more difficult to evict people, guess what? There's going to be less landlords out there. There's going to be less people willing to rent their properties because they know that they won't be able to get rid of these tenants. And you know what? You combine rent controls and everything else on top of there, you make it so that landlords aren't able to purchase properties and fix them up, raise the rents, and then turn a profit, and people will just stop doing that. We've seen what the result of these sort of laws is in places like New York and California, and it is frightening. look at the cost of housing in these places, and you'll see that, hey, housing is more expensive in these places. You know, like the more government regulations we put over property owners, over landlords, the more expensive housing becomes. But, you know, I'm not going to read any more of this article. I want you to put a comment in the comment section down below and let me know what you think of this whole situation. Do you think good cause eviction actually is going to lower costs for tenants? I don't.